Welcome to the Broken Phoenix podcast. I'm your host, Zach Allen. It's been a while since I've been on this thing. Apologize to anybody who listens consistently. Just had life going on. Spent a lot of time with my roommates, doing some traveling, things like that. Missed the whole month of June, but I've been taking some time. I'm trying to line up an interview with somebody. They've had some stuff going on in their life, so they haven't been able to get on a call with me. So it's still in the works. And then in the meantime, I decided that I'm going to do another episode solo. And so here it is. This is episode 6, like I said before. This one I titled Navigating Life After a Long-Term Relationship. So I know some of these topics, again, with this podcast, I try and keep it as light as possible, and that's the goal here. And I want to talk about this because this was really hard for me. I'm still actively going through it. I'm way better than what I was at the beginning. Now that time has passed. I know a lot of guys go through it, but they suffer in silence. They don't really talk about it because that's just not the alpha male thing to do, right? We don't talk about what we feel and what we go through after a breakup. Again, I hope this episode helps some people, like all the other ones. That's the whole goal of this. Again, it's not a woe is me. It's just shit that I've been through, how I felt going through it, mistakes I've made, some strategies that I'd probably implement that I wish I would have known at the time. And yeah, but again, I know it's not a popular topic, but we all go through breakups. And, again, I know it's stereotypical for the women to go to their friends and talk about, and us guys just hit the bottle for a little bit, and then we go on doing our alpha male shit, going back to work and just sweeping it under the rug, and that's not the right thing to do. So with that, let's get into this thing. I'm going to talk about my experience a little bit in detail, but not too much in detail. I don't want to give out a bunch of specifics because, again, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody. Everybody's situation is different, and that's fine. But I'm going to talk about a little bit of my scenario, and we'll go from there. So I want you to picture yourself. You're in another country. You're there for work. But you're trying to enjoy yourself as well because you're in an all-inclusive resort. I know it sounds great and everything, and it was great at the time. But things at home haven't been the greatest either before you went there in terms of your marriage and other things in life. And you're working on it to repair your marriage and fix yourself as well. Correct your mistakes that you were making and do better like you should be. And then some events transpire, and while you're out of the country, you find out that your wife wants a divorce. That's what happened to me. And it was very hard being a couple thousand miles away from home. What do I do? That was a question, like, how could this happen? I want answers. What, why, when? Then I had to go and watch a basketball game after that. My situation is a little muddied. Again, you all can connect some dots. Those that know me a little bit or know me very well, do what you want with the information. But again, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but this is shit that I went through. I found out I was in another country that things took a sharp left. I can tell you who we played that day. I can't tell you the score at all. I know we got slaughtered. but I can't tell you the score. Immediate panic attacks. It was terrible, man. Um, yeah, after the game, try to make some calls and stuff and try and just figure things out. And it was terrible. Um, I surprisingly didn't drink that night. Uh, I didn't feel like meeting up with people. Tried to stay in my hotel room and do ASMR and other things to try and help me take my mind off it. Nothing worked. I didn't sleep. He asked my buddy the next morning. We went to breakfast, and I'm a big breakfast guy. I love breakfast. And I ate half of a piece of bacon and took one bite of a bagel, and that's all I could stomach. So it was a terrible time, man. It fucked me up really good. But yeah, we came back. I came back home and tried some things, and it was already done. I just didn't know it. I just wanted to stay in the fight, but it was already done. So that's like the scenario with me, and other things that transpired afterwards. I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to keep that personal to me, but it messed me up a lot, man. And I know that it can do that to a lot of other guys. You're going to put on your tough guy persona and you're going to say stupid things like the only way to get over a woman is underneath another one and all this stuff. They're just distractions. That's all they are. They're not facing reality, the real problem. It's not the proper way to go about it because they're just temporary fixes. All that is just a Band-Aid. If you immediately get with somebody, you're carrying the grief of that relationship that just ended into your new one. You didn't even take the time to process anything. So the shit's going to bleed over into the next relationship. So I advise taking care of yourself before that happens and it affects your new relationship. So that being said, I mentioned the word grief, right? Let's just talk about grief because I feel like some of us have heard about it before, the stages of it. You may not have heard about the stages. Just dive into them here a little bit. So helps everybody understand what they're feeling. So I found this little diagram. I mean, I learned about this in undergrad and everything with a bunch of my classes I had to take. But sorry if I butcher this, Kubler-Ross grief cycle. It's a pretty easy diagram when you find it online. But it talks about the stages of grief. So the first stage is denial. So denial is the avoidance, confusion, elation, shock, or fear. And I'll tell you, this is exactly this step-by-step is how I felt. First was denial, like no way this could happen. No way would she do this. No way would she want this. No way other people could hear about it first before I heard about it and then keep it from me. I was very confused. Like I knew things weren't the greatest, but I knew we were working on it. And then to, it go 100 miles an hour the complete opposite direction when you thought you're doing everything right and all that stuff. I was very confused. I was fearful. Am I going to lose my family? All this stuff. So it crushed me. Like I said before, I just wanted to get home and try and fix things and get answers and all that and save it. So you feel denial right from the start. And these go, these can go hand in hand with death in the family too. So it's kind of similar. I'm not going to say it's the exact same thing as, breakups or anything like that. But with me, you got to understand, this was my high school sweetheart. We were together for 18 years, married for 10 of them. So this was like a death. So with that being said, the second stage of grief is anger, which is frustration, irritation, and anxiety. Man, did I immediately get angry when I found out the circumstances, things, aspects of the process of me getting divorced, why I was getting a divorce. I was very fucking angry. I was very frustrated. I was irritated. Anxiety hit me immediately. Once I got back and, start talking about things, I was vomiting every day for about 2 weeks at least. And it'd be like every other day after that. Again, I couldn't finish breakfast. You know, normally I'll do like an egg sausage bagel sandwich in the mornings or an egg bagel sandwich at least. I would make a peanut butter bagel and only be able to eat half of it. And I would throw up and I'd put my mask on and go to work, act like everything's just fine. I had so much anxiety. It was bad. And I had so much anger. I was so mad because a lot of things were out of my control. That's at least how I felt. The next stage of grief is bargaining. You're struggling to find a meaning here. You start reaching out to others and you start telling your story. That goes back to my second episode with the support system. I reached out to all those people. I reached out to a couple other people. I'm like, help me figure it out. Why? Why did this happen? How did this happen? Telling them my story. Like, what did I do wrong? And can I still fix it? And all this. And God, it's a hard fucking pill to swallow when people are like, it's too far gone, Zach. There's no way. It's over. And you just have to accept that when you didn't want that. I'll tell you, I stayed with anger and bargaining for a very long time afterwards. When holidays come up and it's new starts, when you're alone on Christmas morning, or you don't have your kids Christmas Eve, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, you get them for like a half day and you have to give them up. I wasn't used to that at all. And even then I was like, why? Do you want me back? Things like that. But that's what you go through. It's normal. The next stage is depression. After I stopped with the bargaining, I got caught between anger and depression there for a while. Depression, you're overwhelmed, you feel helplessness, hostility. It's your flight response. I remember talking to my ex a couple of times afterwards and telling her a couple of times, I want to leave. I want to pack up everything. I want a new start. I want a new scenery. I want all of this right now. I'm panicking. And, she tried to be a good human being and lend an ear or helping hand here and there, but she was the problem to me. She's the one that did this. So I couldn't, right? So it just gets cycled back into this anger, depression, a little bit of bargaining, anger, depression. It was a vicious cycle. And I hated it, man, because I couldn't control it, that part, like at times. Like I talked about in my third episode with suicide, like you get into these depressive funks and you can't control getting into the funk. At least I couldn't. It just came out of nowhere sometimes, but I could control getting out of it. But in the time I was just caught, man, God, it was bad. Again, I forever thank that support system and everybody else that was there with me through that, helping me through it. You saved me a lot, helped put things into perspective for me. The last stage is acceptance. Man, it's glorious when you get to this spot. You're not totally out of the forest, of the darkness of it, but you're way closer to the light than you are the middle of it, the gloomy, the cancerous gray clouds is raining on you and it's 40 degrees. Now you're towards the tree line and partly sunny. It's 70, it'll rain on you a little bit here and there, but it's way better. You start exploring options here. You have a new plan in place, a new normal, and you're ready to move on. I'm mostly here. I'll self-admit, like, I'm mostly here. You know, I'm not 100%, but I'm a majority now than what I was months ago. I'm finding out that anger, it comes back every now and again if I get like a trigger or something like that. But it's short-lived. It doesn't hang around like it did before. While I was going through this whole grieving process, you know, I felt betrayed with my situation. And that leads me to want to talk about the betrayal trauma theory that was proposed by psychologist Jennifer Freyd. Found this online, and again, just highlight it real quick for everybody. And a lot of guys that can relate to it. And I even think, again, females can relate to it if you've been betrayed, because this is just a human response with this one. This isn't male versus female brain and the amygdala and all that process. And how we process things different. This stuff is general stuff that just happens to the human body. So this theory explores how trauma can be impactful when it is perpetrated by a person or institutions upon whom an individual depends or trusts deeply. Its impacts are physical, emotional, and mental. And it's tough. So let's talk about the psychological responses first. It's emotional pain, the hurt, sadness, anger, confusion. You develop trust issues, anxiety, stress, difficulty sleeping, intrusive thoughts. This is real. I lost so much sleep. I have an Aura ring, if anybody's ever heard of that. It's a ring that you wear. I only wear it at night for sleeping to track it. I got terrible sleep scores and readiness scores with this. I was probably averaging about 4.5 hours of sleep a night. I would toss and turn. I would sleep on the couch a lot because I couldn't stand sleeping in my bed, a bed that we shared. I would watch movies that were just neutral with no trauma or drama or anything like that to try and distract me. It was tough. Again, the anxiety, I couldn't eat. My one person in my support system is also my roommate. I remember walking out my front door. I have a Ring doorbell. And she's with her mom, and her mom saw a glimpse of me. She said, "Is that Zach? He's getting skinny." Yeah. It took its toll on me. Bad. I have developed trust issues for sure. I travel a lot for work, and it's a problem right now that I'm working through myself. But we'll get better with it. So there's some psychological stuff, the intrusive thoughts, like, you know, what could I have done better? It's the what ifs. What if I would have done this? What if I would have done that? I could have done this better, all that stuff. It starts taking its toll on you. You start beating yourself up and blaming you a lot. The next response or changes is physiological changes. Headaches, GI stuff, so gastrointestinal, being nausea, vomiting, fatigue, changes in appetite, weakened immune system, hair loss. For those of you who know me, I already started like losing my hair, a little receding hairline here, some male pattern baldness. Again, I'm going to be real on this thing. It got even worse with this. I had way more people making comments about it. And like I cared in the moment, but on the other hand, I didn't give a fuck too, because they knew nothing about what was happening in my life and all the stuff that I was dealing with. And my stress and trauma doesn't just end with the thought of getting a divorce. There's way more things that happened right after that conversation. And again, those who know, and those who don't, you can piece it together or you can just stay in the dark. It's up to you. But I had air loss for sure, changes in appetite, again, fatigue. I wasn't sleeping at all. I was vomiting in the mornings. I was getting sicker than a dog all the time. You ask my close friends, like, oh my God, you're sick again. Yeah, my life just got ruined, man. And I have to find a new normal and navigate that while being a rock for my kids and putting on a front. Daddy's okay when we're going to make it through this. We'll be totally fine. But people knew it. You see it. It was tough. Physiological changes. People would be like, you're losing weight. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm on this new diet. It's called stress and depression. You should try it sometime with a sprinkle of anxiety. I hope you lose some weight. I don't recommend it, by the way. I don't condone it. Don't do it if you don't have to. Do it the smart way. Exercise, good eating habits. So that's, emotional and mental mixed in with all that physical, psychological there. So it definitely has an impact on you whenever you feel betrayed with things. Again, I don't care about anybody's perspective. I don't give a shit what people think happened. I know what happened. I know how my body responded to it. I know how my brain responded to all of it. And the effects were real and noticeable. So with some strategies to combat it, one, they suggest keeping a journal. Write how you feel. It can be negative too, but make it real. Write things down. I didn't necessarily keep a journal. I did a hate letter one time recommended by my therapist. You just write out your intrusive thoughts, everything, and then you burn it to sort of like set it free, get the weight off your shoulders. I did that book, Burn After Writing. I still haven't completed it, but I've talked about that in the past episodes, and that's helped me as well. So you can keep a journal and start writing your stuff down. Help see like what you're feeling. I know this sounds crazy, but if you have tangible words in front of you that you can see and read out loud, it'll help you out. So simple. It's hard. Another strategy, take time to talk/worry. Talk to yourself. I did this a lot. People would think I'm crazy. I do it in the weight room. I do it at home in the kitchen. I do it in the shower. I would sit there and just talk to myself, process, act like I'm talking to her about some things that are going on and asking why and defending myself and my reasons for certain things and apologizing. But I would talk all the time to myself every day, multiple times a day. For a while, at the beginning, it was like 7 times a day. I'd catch myself. I'll be in the car driving to work, driving home from work, all the time. It's crazy. But you need to take that time because that allows you to get it off your chest, but not blow up on that person. Just talk through it, but don't talk to them. Don't say what you're going to say. And it could also help you map out if you are going to talk to that person about something that's bothering you. You can get the venom off your chest with yourself and still make yourself feel pretty good about it. Then circle back and talk to that person, but exclude the venom because you already spit it. You don't need it anymore. That helped me a ton. Helped me stay logical and reasonable. Another strategy is to redirect your brain. Again, find distractions. Find purposes, hobbies, even if they only last for 5 minutes. Find something. Just distract your mind as much as you can. But don't bank on that being forever, right? Because that's just a band-aid as well. One more strategy they highlight are physical cues through the vagus nerve. So some people use a rubber band that they like snap against their skin. Not hard, right? We're not in high school firing paper hornets at each other or anything like that. But something to like redirect your brain there. Press your fingernails into the palms of your hand. Something to redirect it. I'll tell you one thing I used to do again, might be strange to people, but so I wouldn't cry in front of her or have an emotional response when we were having a difficult conversation, or if I were getting mad, I would pinch my hip flexor. Like I'd reach my pocket and just pinch the skin there. I'd do it there because it'd bruise and nobody would ask questions if they saw the bruises. But I pinched myself that hard and it would redirect my brain. It's so crazy. It works. It really does. So those are some strategies to try and get you out of that feeling of betrayal, amongst other ones that I've highlighted in other episodes. So if you're feeling betrayed, take time to process it, but then get off your ass and get moving. Stay distracted. Find a new purpose. Gotta move on. Gotta stay moving. All right, talk about some mistakes that I made. Again, highlight real quick. I'm sure that everybody is listening to this. You made the same mistakes, and it's okay. But it's not okay to keep making the same mistakes, because that's just insanity. Tell my athletes all the time, insanity, definition of that is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's insanity. So don't keep doing the same things. You're going to slip up here and there. We're all human. That's fine. I'm not perfect by any means. But here's some mistakes that I made looking at old pictures. Oh, God, that was terrible. I remember whenever she told me she wants a divorce and everything, I started taking pictures down the hallway of us whenever we went overseas to Italy. Visit. My stepdad made us these nice shadow boxes with some decorative stuff and like a pin of the country and a picture of us in there in the middle of it. I love the idea and I still do it now. But now it's just me taking the picture alone. Which I don't mind, by the way. Don't fucking feel sorry for me. But I took the pictures down and I like threw her for a whirl. She's like, oh, why'd you do that? And I'm like, I can't stand and look at him now. So I ended up putting a picture of, the same thing that I took there. Like one of them was Italy and us in the Vatican. And I took that down and put a picture of a Colosseum that I glued it over top. And there was one in Greece. She didn't go to Greece with me, but, he put another picture of us there. And I glued a picture of me in front of the Pantheon there. That's how I fixed that one. But looking at old pictures, I boxed up all the pictures that we had together. And they're in a Tupperware container in my garage, just hidden. On my phone, I deleted a bunch. I hid a bunch of them, ones especially with her and my children. I didn't want to totally get rid of them. I didn't feel that was right in case my kids wanted them when they get older. So I've kept those, but I put them in a hidden folder on my phone. I deleted all of the picture of us off of social media. And again, it wasn't for me being an asshole. That's what I had to do. I had to get out of there. I couldn't watch all of them. I couldn't see it. I even hate hopping on social media and seeing reminders of memories you had with a person and whatnot. I hate it. But that's some stuff that mistake I made. Another one's the what ifs. I've talked about those before. I'm not going to go deep into those, but getting stuck in the what ifs. What if I would have done more laundry? What if I would have watched the kids even longer and let her have some time by herself? What if I would have cooked more? What if I would have been more attentive emotionally? more emotionally mature early on. You know, you'll kill yourself if you stay in the what ifs. It doesn't make sense. Don't stay there. It's not going to help anything. One specific thing I did, we had an Amazon Prime account and I had it on my phone, the app. And when she moved out, I could see stuff that she was looking at, some purchases that I didn't want to see and I shouldn't have seen, or like items she was looking at. And when I got my new phone, I didn't even log into the account. Matter of fact, to this day, I'll go to a friend, one of two of my friends that have Amazon Prime accounts. I'll have them order something from me, and then I'll just Venmo them the money. I don't want to see the purchases that she's making, the new living that she's developing, even clothes. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh God, she looked so good in that. But that's not going to help at all, man. You get the hell out of that. So that was specific to me. Any shared account like that you can see, the go bank account too. Purchases. You keep an eye on purchases. What's she buying? Where's she buying from? It's crazy, but you do it. And if you're listening, big, what? You did that, and like something like this happened to you? Fuck you. You did it too. You just did something different. Social media. Huh. I had to have her unfriend me. I couldn't see that shit, that garbage. I didn't want to see it at all. Him and her, all that. Nope. So got off of that. I said, I don't want to see it. So we stopped following each other. I shut off notifications to some people that are close to her. I just don't want to see it. And that's a me thing. That's a me problem. That's okay. But that was mistakes I was making at first. And it just sent me spiraling. And then trying to rationalize behavior. Well, she decided because of this, or, even after the fact, well, she needs help with this. I'm just trying to be a good human being. And yeah, that wasn't good for me. I needed to set boundaries and take care of myself. That's selfish and that's totally fine. So there's just a few mistakes that I made, and I know that some of you made them, and know that you're human, and I hope you prevailed over all of it, just like I am. What should you do? Find distractions. Find a purpose. Again, figure that out. Go through trials of stuff too. Knitting, crocheting, who gives a shit? Even if you're going to do it for 5 minutes, it's going to help you for that 5 minutes. I started learning Italian. That's been as simple as that is, it's been a good distraction for me. Just something different, anything. Remember that they're not who they used to be. I used to listen to this short Jocko podcast snippet talking about dealing with breakups. And every time I needed a reminder, I would put that on and just remember that they are not who you married. They're not who you met when you're younger. They are different, for better or worse. Who knows? I don't know everybody's situation. I'm not going to say again a bunch about mine, but not the same person. That person wouldn't do this to you. Things like that, or whatever your situation is. Don't invest in somebody that isn't invested in you. That happened to me with this. Turn the tables, try to invest highly in her, but she just wasn't investing in me at the end. And it just is what it is. That may have been the right call for her. Great. But don't invest your time in somebody that isn't invested in you anymore. Value yourself. So with that, let's wrap this up with the Phoenix perspective. A couple weeks ago, I went to Barnes & Noble to get the book Scars and Stripes by Tim Kennedy, which I'm very much enjoying. He's a funny dude. He's been through a lot of stuff. It's really cool just to see how he has become so successful with a troubled past and trauma throughout his life too. While I was looking for the book, I found another book that caught my eye. As you can probably tell, I'm into Stoicism a lot. And the book's called Reasons Not to Worry by Bridget Delaney. How to be Stoic in Chaotic Times. And the picture on the front is a bust of Marcus Aurelius. And there's a bird on top of him, and it's pooping on him. And which I thought was funny, it caught my eye, so it did its job. And it pretty much dumbs down the Stoic mindsets of ancient Roman philosophers and Stoics and relates them to various things in life. And I was looking through this book and I started reading the one chapter called How to Grieve. I said, this is perfect for this episode. And I'll talk about the carousel of grief. That's the Phoenix perspective this time. And I'm going to read to you just a snippet from the book here. And it's a letter that Seneca, who is an ancient Roman Stoic, it's a letter that he wrote to his mother. His mother was grieving the loss of her young adult son, and for 3 years. And she got caught in the carousel of grief, where you just stay on and you just keep processing and you get stuck. Something like I talked about earlier with me. I got stuck between anger, bargaining, and depression for a very long time. So Seneca writes to his mom. Here's the letter. 3 whole years have now passed, and yet the first violence of your sorrow has in no way abated. Your grief is renewed and grows stronger every day. By lingering, it has established its right to stay, and has now reached a point that it is ashamed to make an end. Just as all vices become deep-rooted unless they are crushed when they spring up, so too, such a state of sadness and wretchedness, with its self-afflicted torture, feeds at last upon its very bitterness, and the grief of unhappy mind becomes a morbid pleasure. And so I shall have liked to approach your cure in the first stages of your sorrow. While it is still young, a gentler remedy might have been used to check its violence. Against invariated evils, the fight must be more vehement. This is likewise true of wounds. They are easy to heal while they are still fresh and bloody. When they have festered and turned into a wicked sore, then they must be cauterized and opened up to the very bottom, must submit to probing fingers. As it is, I cannot possibly be a match for such hardened grief. By being considerate and gentle, it must be crushed. This is where Seneca believed that his mom needed to draw a line under her sorrow. If she continued to grieve, she would be removed, quote, from the number of the living. I found that very profound for this Phoenix perspective. I think Seneca is right. You get caught in that carousel of grief, like I did. I would float from anger to depression, then to back to anger, and then back to bargaining, back and forth, that I, quote unquote, stopped living, right? I wasn't present in the moment. And you just keep on that carousel and it distracts you from everything. And I fell victim to it, but luckily I had some friends help me get out of it. And I got myself out of it as well. You know, if you hang out there, you start missing things. That concert you could have went to, other events that you like to do, your kids growing up. If, you know, that's my situation. If I got caught, if I stayed on a carousel, I'd stop interacting with my kids, right? I'd be constantly just processing. And that's not fair to them at all. You got to get off of it. Get off that carousel. I heard a podcast with Mike Glover, who is a special forces operator, former, and it was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He said something as well, which just further supports what I'm trying to do here. He said, way back with Native Americans, whenever they were fighting battles, they would gather their tribe up after the battle around a fire, and they would tell their story, things that they did, things that they saw, no matter how violent. And what they were doing was sharing the burden with other people. Let them know what they did so they could get it off their chest. So if people have been doing it since the beginning of time, man, don't be afraid to share the burden with your friends. I promise you, your true friends won't turn you away. They'll be right there with you. They'll share the burden. They'll love you through the shit. They'll build you up. Every time you fall back down, they'll pick you back up. So share that burden. It's okay. Talk, man. I'll leave you with this final quote. Let's see if some of you can get where the source is from. And I quote, "I make no apologies for how I choose to repair what you broke." End quote. I'm going to continue slaying dragons my way. I'm taking control. I'm going to get out of the deep end. And I'll keep living, man. With that, stay in the fight. Never ever give up. And have the day you deserve. Until next time.